time.
Tea milk to sugars. Tea milk to sugars. Tea milk to sugars.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Cyrus Kaffash, live from Manchester, England. I have the pleasure of presenting to you Eny Osung, the fantastic author of Lessons We Learned from COVID-19. Paulette Hallam, the amazing bestseller of Jack and Walter trilogy. Yours is a bestseller as well, Eny, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 10 times.
Oh, that's amazing.
So 10 categories.
Amazing,
International.
10 countries. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So 10 categories in three countries. So you know,
that's amazing.
normally you say UK, US, Canada, Australia, and no, that's about it. Those are the four that we normally work in.
How many of you guys got together writing this?
That altogether there are 10 co-authors, including me. So I mean, there were six when we started, and we had a hoo-ha in the middle just before going to publish. So I just had to add 4 more people, to make this story richer and to give more people a chance to, I guess, get the legacy of becoming an author.
That's amazing. It's not every day that we can get Eny Osung for you. Let's hear from the man himself. Please introduce yourself. Tell our fantastic community what you do and what you are about. Please go ahead, Mr. Eny Osung.
This is always the hardest question, and when I ask my friends, I'm always wary of the challenge that I've just given them. Look, simple level, Eny. I'm the happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I founded Global.media. I founded Small Business e-Marketing. That's the company behind everything I do. So from Small Business e-Marketing, we created Global.media, which we became the trading arm of the company. What do we do? Look, it's on a simple level. I want to make people famous. I want to make people rich. I want to help people build a legacy. I want people to be visible. That way they sell more. It's all of that makes me wake up every day. You know, so from a marketing agency, you know, I guess we have evolved into a publishing company which takes in all the other things we do to make our author friends famous, visible, well-known, trusted, and essentially so they can sell more. You know, so part of that is the journey we take authors through, from now helping them to write the book, to publish the book, to market the book, of course, launch a book in the middle of all that as well, and make them international bestsellers on Amazon. That's a guaranteed service, by the way. And so something that works through all of those is our marketing services. So there's social media, we do email, and we do live stream events. So we're now taking the live stream events to real life stages. So I want to put authors on stages. That way people people in good numbers know who they are. They know why they should like and trust them. And then they also know why they should buy their books and their services.
That is fantastic. Thank you. I'll come back to you again, Eny. I'm going to go to Paulette now, my partner in crime. Paulette, for those of us who don't know you yet, or it's the first time they're meeting you, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about Jack and Walter, and we'll start the show immediately after that. please go ahead very briefly. We're going to hear from you.
Muted. You're muted. Is that just me?
No, you're muted. I'm fine. My name is Paulette Hallam. I'm Cyrus's partner in crime on the Tea Milk Two Sugars podcast. I've really kind of found my niche in mental wellness, not just for children, but for everyone, really. But I think ultimately working out that there was this huge post-COVID as well was very important to mention. There was such a huge need for therapists and counselors, and people needed desperately support for their children. They couldn't get it. And Jack and Water, the series of books we brought out, have really kind of filled a gap in that market of somewhere between the therapist and the teacher and the school system and the parents. They've been able to find themselves. And so we have 3 in the series. It's Jack and Water in Bantaller's Breakfast, which is unfortunately one of the most important books I've ever written in my life. And it's all about bereavement, because so many children lost their grandparents, so many children lost aunts and uncles and people they cared about during COVID and post-COVID. And this book, The Bantaller's Breakfast Mystery, is really about me sort of trying to help children deal with the loss of a family member. And then we move on to the grandmother moves in with the family because of what's happened. The granddad has died. The grandma moves in with the family, and then they all decide to move because they're all squashed in. So then you have Jack and Water in New House Nerves, which is really a book about transition. It's about change. It's about dealing with life and how difficult it can be when there is a sudden change, whatever it is, whether it's someone's no longer there, or whether it's a new school, whether it's a new house, whether it's a new whatever. And then, of course, because they've moved house, that means he has to start a new school. Then we've got Jack and Water in New School Niggles. And, there's planned many, many more. But until they become a household name, the plan is to just continue pushing those books out as far as we can. And so hopefully that means that eventually we'll then go ahead and do the next one and the next one and the next one. So, but as for on LinkedIn with Eny, I do 2 rooms, a children's anxieties room on a Tuesday, and I also do the mental wellness cafe on a Monday evening. Tomorrow evening is the first one for a while. And the most important thing, about me is what you see is what you get. You might not always like the way I say it. You might not always like the way it comes across, but it's always done with a kind heart. And the most important thing is that people know why you're doing it. You're doing it because you care. And if you care, that's good enough. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Paulette, for that fantastic introduction. We're going to be talking about lessons we learned from COVID-19. That's a well-received book by Eny Osung, and we've had a really good and positive review regarding the book. Same as Paulette's trilogy. We're going to be talking about these books, and just to start off, we're going to there you go. So lessons we learned from COVID-19. We're going to be talking about different views and find out what you guys think about these 10 kind of opposing views that people have regarding COVID-19. So first of which is how COVID-19 changed our lives forever. View A is held by people who say COVID permanently changed the society, and view B says most of life has returned to normal. What do you think, Eny? Which one of these two views would you advocate?
I'll probably go with view A. Yes, I'll probably go with view A. Yeah, even though
So
I
you'd go
don't
for-
think
right.
I don't think necessarily the changes are irreversible, and I don't think many of the changes that we blame on COVID are legitimate in that sense. I've moved on, you've moved on, Paulette's moved on, but still, there are people who are stuck mentally in the COVID time, and many people will use that as an excuse today for a lot of things, which I don't think are really applicable. And that's my personal.
Fair enough. Thank you, Paulette. What do you think?
Yeah,
of
I'd
the,
go with A, but I wouldn't say that things haven't changed and wouldn't have changed anyway. I think what it did was it probably pushed people to move a lot quicker. So maybe the things would have happened eventually anyway, but it sped things up by, multiple of maybe 10, 15, 20 years. So I think that's what, yes, I think it's A is the answer, but I actually think that it did speed things up, and it expedited property in London, for example, to stand empty because people are no longer having big plush offices. They've gone down to a much smaller office and a hot desk, and people work from home. So in a way, companies are saving a fortune in that respect. So you would say that it's been a bonus for companies, but it also meant companies had to use the word trust. And I use this word, and I don't use this word lightly. As a managing director and a director, there's always trust. And I work from home from when I was pregnant with Ben. So when we set the company up, they allowed me to always work from home. So there was always trust. But they used to say we wouldn't let everyone do this, right? And the reason they say they wouldn't let everyone do this is because there was that trust issue. Would those people work? Would those people put the effort in? Would those people get the same amount of work done, etc.? And so I think that what it did was it made people have to go to straight to from zero to trust. Does that make any sense? If you had a dial, you sort of go, well, I'll give it a bit, I'll give it a bit, I'll give it a bit, and it worked its way round. It went from zero to trust. There was no option. People were going to have to work from home, and that was the end of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Paulette. I personally think that question perhaps needs an episode for its own because there's too much to unpack on that one. But when you focus on part B, where it says most of life has returned back to normal, the norm is gone. The norm before COVID is gone. So gone are those norms. When you had the chances of operating with a little trust as a business, right? So as a business, COVID came and like a tornado, it sunk a lot of ships who were a little bit iffy. Those businesses who weren't 100% trustworthy, they're gone now. If a business can't communicate post-COVID, after COVID, if business can't communicate properly with the customers, or if a business can't build trust, they're just wasting their time. Simple as that. So the next one is lockdowns. Benefits, costs, and consequences. View A says lockdowns caused more harm than good. View B says lockdowns saved lives and protected healthcare. Eny, what do you think?
I'm with you, B. I say, anyway, I was present during the lockdown, and I remember suddenly we couldn't go. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go for group gatherings. For me, business networking was what I was doing every day, pretty much. And suddenly, you couldn't do that anymore. Going to clients' offices. Again, that was a no-no. Of course, my kids going to school suddenly became a no-no.
Yeah.
Given the way COVID was spreading, I was more than happy for the new normal. That's what I call it. The new normal that we suddenly got. Now that's the new normal. Suddenly, it shoved all of us online. It shoved all of us, into, I guess, thinking more about where we're hanging out, where we're spending time, who we're spending time with, and I think it was a good thing ultimately, but of course, so a lot of people have different views, and I hear it every day, and I'm like, whatever, whatever, what's done is done, and what's done was done for good reasons, whether it had unintended consequences, maybe, but I'm not really bothered by that. Maybe I can liken it to when I was a kid in Nigeria, right? When I was growing up in Nigeria, I grew up in Granddad's hospital, and whatever illness you had, whatever happened to you, you were suddenly grabbed, gathered, thrown down, and injected 3 times a day at least, right? Malaria, measles, monkey bite, I'm saying snake bite, whatever it is, you're going to be grabbed and injected at least 3 times a day, right? For a few days. Was that the right treatment? I don't know. I survived. That's all I know. And lockdown is the same thing. There was a moment when I thought, I'm the perfect criteria to die from COVID. Black, nearly 50, not too skinny. So I was quite happy not to be at risk of dying of COVID unnecessarily. That's my take.
Thank you so much. So the next one, for the next one, we're gonna have to go to Paulette. The impact of school closures on children. That is definitely where you shine 100%, Paulette, because you are a children's author, not just once, but at least 3. 4 is in the making. The last thing I heard. So here's the point: the impact of school closures on children. View A says that school closures cause lasting harm. Grade, people falling behind, etc., etc. And View B says they were necessary at the time. So what do you think, Paulette?
It's a very difficult question to answer, and as you say, it's a show in itself.
Yeah,
we were all running around opening bottom drawers looking for old phones, right? Where there was an SOS put out by the local school saying, anybody who's got old phones, that please could you be kind enough to buy a £10 card, which you could buy off of Amazon or wherever, to connect the phone to whatever, so you were E or Nokia or whatever, so you could connect the phone straight up to the existing company, and then you could clear everything down off of it and then hand it in, so that people were given a phone and a £10 voucher that they could then use if they needed to, or if they had internet at home. So we had sort of maybe 3 or 4. And, we hand these phones in, and I was told, then I got asked by our cleaning lady, do you have a spare phone? And I was like, I gave 4 away. Oh, hang on a minute. What about upstairs? There's one that I might know of. It's a bit older, but, if you don't mind. She was like, listen, if it's a phone, it's a phone. They had 2 children in 2 separate rooms, and they also had the parents working. So you had four people, all of them in different rooms, all of them working individually. And that we're talking about a 4.5 and a 5-year-old child spending the day on the phone. Okay. So if you ask me, well, what's the lasting harm? That's when we started putting phones in children's hands at the age of 4, 3, 4, 5. And from 3, 4, 5, they became the babysitter. From 4, 5, 6, they became addicted. And from 6, 7, 8, it's been proven that they're literally physically stuck. There's like super glue. It's magic. You can't see it, but it's a magical glue where the phone is just surgically attached to the child. And then by the time they got to the senior school, you know the rest. I mean, there isn't a child on this planet or a young person on this planet that didn't say to their parents or whoever, I will fall behind with my exams. Ben was in the middle of his GCSEs. I mean, it was horrendous. They were trying to do chemistry. I remember this very clearly. They were trying to do chemistry, and they weren't doing any experiments. The teacher was talking them through experiments. Now, if you know anything about science, if you can't physically see what's going on, you can't actually imagine it, then it's very, very hard. And so how do you teach a topic like chemistry or biology, or, you're talking about absolutely incredible need, which is wiped out. And so even when they get to university, or even when they're doing their A-levels, there's these great big holes in their education that were never to be filled. And I think if you look at it, the generations that are coming through now, who are sort of like 8, 9, 10, 11, when they find out that social media is going to get cancelled, it's going to be like someone's cutting their right arm off. It is going to be hell. So if you thought you had teenage tantrums, you're going to be having them from the age of 5 upwards, and it's going to be that bad. And I dread to think just how much damage was done. I think it's not been measured properly, and never will be, for the ultimate reason that I don't think people want to know just how bad the damage was in causing the schools to shut down.
Thank you so much, Paulette. We're going to go for a commercial break, and we'll be back immediately after that.
Milk to sugar.
Give me tea, give me tea, give me lots of tea. My new favorite is a box of tea. Cups of tea, pots of tea, give me lots of tea. My new favorite is a box of tea. Give me tea, give me tea, give me a box of tea. Can I please have a cup of a box of tea?
Thank you
I
so
like
much.
I like your advertisers. They're short. So I'm not reaching for my, skip. Oh, there's no skip button. Damn. So I'll take it.
So the next one is for you, Eny. Vaccines, expectations versus what we learned. So view A says expectations were too high. View B says vaccines achieved their main goal, which was reducing severe damage. Now, before you answer this one, Eny, I just want to say, some people say, what is the job of a vaccine? The job of a vaccine is A, stop you from getting the disease, and B, if you get the disease, curing you. Now, COVID-19 neither cures nor prevents, right? So that is the reason why this is on our list. So what is your understanding of this dilemma sandwich? So what do you think of this?
Again, it's a pretty straightforward one for me because I'm not at all into injections. Now, if anything, I got needle phobia. But I went for all my COVID jabs, and I was maybe changed for good, not to be so scared of injections. Look, like I said to you, given my characteristics and the fact that people like me were dying of COVID in huge numbers, the vaccine couldn't come quick enough, and that's why I was there for all of them. I think they were. I think they were used.
What changed your mind?
Well,
what changed your mind? Because I went there. There were no lollipops, so that I just went back home. So I didn't get the job.
Really? I hope that's not true. It could be true. It could be true. No, look, I didn't want to die. No, there came a day which I wrote about in the book. There came a day when I realized I could just die tomorrow, and no one would know about Eny at all. No one would care. Maybe my family, they might shed a tear or two, but they'll move on, right? And from my understanding, which is my belief really, is that vaccines will stop you getting the more serious illnesses linked to COVID. And did that happen? Did that happen to me? I'll say so. I haven't had any serious illnesses before COVID or since COVID. Of course, during COVID as well. I've had mild colds, mild flus, but nothing that's got me hospitalized. What I didn't want to do was end up in hospital with COVID, because most people who went there normally didn't come out. So the vaccine I credit for keeping me out of serious illness, out of hospital, and preventing my premature death.
But the thing is, Eny, the vaccine obviously inadvertently cut some lives short as well because of the unintended consequence of the vaccine. Back then, we didn't know that. It was just fear-based. People were dying, and Paulette's got some statistics regarding that, which who's going to share with us in a few moments. So people were scared. That's why they were taking the vaccine, not because people had the confidence that the vaccine would save their life. So, Paulette, what do you? What is your take on this? Eny kindly shared his. So, what do you think?
It's from a personal perspective, having suffered from long COVID and still have. I'm under UCL in London for one of the longest suffering survivors of COVID. And we still do now bloods and various tests every single year. And I've only just got some of my smells and tastes back, even since I've been ill with the gallbladder. I've got some new senses of smells and tastes back, which I didn't have before. So there, some very strange things have gone on in my body. But I can tell you that when I've sat in a room or lying in a room, and there are 3 people on ventilators, and I'm on a CPAP machine, and they're talking about putting me on a nebulizer, and me saying to them, no, I'm fine. I want to stay on the CPAP machine. Even if it's on 18 hours, I'll stay on the CPAP machine and then just have oxygen, And they allowed that. But I was in an ICT room with 4 people, 3 of them flatlined whilst I was lying in the bed. And it was the most horrendous thing to have your curtains closed and the bed would be moved out. Bed would be moved to a single occupancy room. My curtains would be opened and there'd be a spare space there. And that happened 3 times. And then when they came to my bed and sat down and said, "We don't think you're going to be going home," I said, "That's okay. I'll go tomorrow." And they said, "No, I don't think you understand. We don't think you're going home." And I looked at them and I just was so shocked that anyone tells you you're going to die in that way. And then fortunately, there was a junior doctor there who just winked at me and just said, "I'll be back." And she came back with a professor from Papworth, which is a big hospital near Addenbrooke's. It's a big heart, lungs. They're all they were doing lots of work with breathing and with apparatus. And he came in and he said, "Your blood clots have saved you." I said, "Sorry, is your 5 blood clots on your right lung?" I'm like, "Mama, what?" Nobody had happened to mention that to me. You got 5 blood clots on your right lung, and that stopped you going on the ventilator, and that saved your life. He said, "We're sure that the ventilators are causing more harm than good." And that was
You know
the
what?
chief.
Yeah, Paul, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I was going to say, I did a bit of research and found out using those ventilators a little bit too early in the treatment process killed people,
Yes.
unfortunately. And had the doctors known, right,
Yeah.
they would have prevented that. So that tells me we did not have, even though COVID's been around for ages, like it's been in labs and it's been tested on since 1960s. Okay, COVID was not invented in 2019. Okay, so anyway,
I've got some stats for you if you want them, because they show numbers that will make your toes curl because they're so horrific.
Please go ahead.
These numbers are estimates from all the senior hospitals around the world. So places like Papworth have been gathering data, as have others like UCL. So there were more than 777 million confirmed cases reported worldwide. They reckon, and it's a circa. So whenever it's circa, it's up or down, who knows, right? Circa 7 million official recorded deaths. And they're deaths that mean that they were excess to the normal mortality rate. So you have a normal mortality rate, and this was over and above. However, many of those people who had you talk about excess mortality. If you had an elderly person who had a chest complaint, then they may have lived for 10 years having a chest complaint, but their life was cut short because either they were put on a ventilator or the disease itself killed them. And so they reckon that if you add those numbers in officially, it's near 15 to 20 million people died worldwide from this disease. And the estimate is from the World Health Organization numbers. So they are not like they've just made them up. These are absolute researched numbers. But you're not just talking about a number here. I just want to say, from my own personal perspective, you're talking about a family member. You're talking about the damage it does to your mental health as well.
Thank you, Paulette. I was going to say, thank you for the fantastic statistics that you just provided for our viewers. And I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for listening to us and watching us today live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on YouTube. Guys, what we provide here is simply a account of what's happened to us and the people that we know. Your experience might be different. Please do come to the comment section and share with us your views. If it's wrong, share with us and tell us why it's wrong. If it's right, tell us why it's right. I don't know in your country, but in the UK, for a big chunk of the lockdown and the whole palaver, the deaths in care homes was not getting added to the deaths in the hospitals. Why? Because the government has targets that they need to meet. Okay, so they played with people's lives by, I mean, not the government, of course, NHS, unknowingly they played with people's lives by creating that ventilated situation, by using them when they weren't supposed to, obviously due to lack of knowledge. They shut the borders a little too late. That also claimed some lives. And whilst the people were being told to isolate, the government officials were partying, and it was dubbed a partygate, I think, at some point. So there was a little bit of I mean, the UK government could have done a little bit better. And as my mom always says, if you can do better, probably you should. So the next one is number 5, natural immunity and evolving science. So view A says natural immunity deserves early recognition. View B says vaccines remained the safer strategy. So it's vaccines versus natural immunity. So what is your view on that, Paulette, please?
I don't think you know that you've got a natural immunity to something until you actually catch it. And then if you catch it and you don't have the natural immunity, then you're in trouble. So that's like playing a game of poker. And I think anybody who has any sort of chest weakness of any kind of asthma or any COPD or whatever it is, if you've got any kind of chest complaint, then you would be an idiot not to go and take whatever precautions you could, because ultimately the risks are that you could die, and nobody wants to die. And it was a case of you toss up the options. You've got death on one hand, or you've got give it a try. Do you take the risk? Do I take the risk that I might be okay, or do I take the risk I won't be? I think the answer is that with the way that the vaccines were rolled out, the different vaccines, I never understood that. I mean, I was taking calls to elderly people who were on their own, who were so scared of having the vaccine. And we were all being asked to do our thing, and I can't travel around. So I was taking calls and chatting to people. My brother was working down at the COVID vaccine centre, directing the traffic. I mean, we are talking about everybody tried to do their bit. But, do you take a risk and go, yeah, I think I'm pretty strong. I'm a robust sort of character. I don't have anything wrong with me. I'll give it a go. Because I would say that about Charles. I would say that about Ben. They've got nothing wrong with them. They're very healthy young people, and they both caught it, and they were both ill, and I mean bedridden ill. And so I just think that, how do you know that your natural immunity is strong enough? It really is a toss of a coin. Head says yes, tail says no. If you take the risk, it's and death's the option. I'm not saying everybody who got COVID died. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you are taking the risk of being very poorly. That's the risk.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much.
Milk to sugar.
Okie dokie. So for the next one, we're gonna go to a community builder. Eny's job is obviously other than a publisher, is a community builder on LinkedIn predominantly. So as someone who deals with trust as his main weapon in his arsenal, right? Because people trust you, people like you, Eny, and that's why you have created a massive community on LinkedIn. So if you were to give mixing signals to people, to your customers, to your viewers, to your friends and family who meet you on your platforms, can you envisage a good future for your business? I doubt it. So now this one, number 6, is for you, Eny. Public health messaging. So trust, change, and communications. View A says officials projected too much certainty. View B says clear messaging was essential during a crisis, but obviously it didn't happen. So what is your view on that, Eny?
Which one? I am not necessarily against how things unfolded. You know, when I was the government messaging clear? Maybe not. That's because they're the government, right? And we seem to have. It's not we seem to have. We have parliamentarians. There's hundreds of them, and they've all got different points of view. You know, I guess I believe the clarity for me came when we started seeing our top doctors, you know, coming to talk about COVID every day. You know, once I started seeing them, you know, I guess I relied on them giving us accurate information. And I think on the whole they did. I think on the whole they did. Look, I am not at all a skeptic about what was done and the effects it has on me. It's had on us because we're still alive. Those who are not might have different points of view.
I understand that, but so you weren't affected by this closing the borders down a little bit too late, right? But if you had lost someone due to that, how would you have felt?
Annoyed, right? So, but that's what I'm saying to you. I'm all for taking precautions rather than, you know, because if we'd left the borders open, there would have been chaos, there would have been mayhem, there would have been more deaths. You know, if we hadn't done lockdown, there would have been more deaths. Full stop.
No. The point. The point I'm trying to make is they should have closed the borders down earlier than they did, because they were too certain about things. Oh no, it's going to be fine, and then they said, no, we should have closed it earlier, right? So every other country was closing it down, and UK's border was still not shutting down, and everyone was wondering what is going on. Why is it that they're not shutting it down? And they opened the borders again, and then they had to go into lockdown, second lockdown, and then it took them a while. They took their time to close the border down. That's what I meant. The messaging was complicated. So they were like, get into your houses, don't get out. You can meet only with 5 people. You can only meet 5 friends. And I was just wondering, where should I find 5 friends from? So no, I'm only joking. Where should I find 5 people I like? So basically, the messaging was a little bit mixed signal, right? So on one hand, they were too strict about lockdowns. On the other, they were leaving the borders open, and anyone who wished to come into the UK carrying the illness would come, and that, potentially speaking, I'm not an expert, but potentially speaking, could have cost more lives. So thank you, Eny. The next one, number 7, scientific uncertainty. Why guidance changed. So changing guidance exposed weaknesses. That's view one. And changing guidance reflects evolving science. And don't even get me started on scientists, because lots of them were science for sale, unfortunately, scientists for sale. And they said stuff they didn't mean to. They did stuff they shouldn't have. Paulette, how do you feel about number 7? It's a difficult one, this one. Guidance
Yeah,
change, and that change exposed weakness, or that change was because science changed, our findings changed. How do you feel?
well, I think they learned to stop putting people on ventilators fairly soon after they killed loads of them. And to be the person who's in the room where people are flatlining is no joke. And when they tell you you're not going home, that's no joke. So as much as I'm listening to these questions, my mind is kind of in a different place, because I'm seeing it from I could be dead. Okay, so I have to stop going to the I could be dead phase, which is the phase that happens. Science evolves, of course. Correct science is the key here. Honest science evolves. Paid science doesn't evolve, right? And I think the key that I found is that I found it difficult to understand what was the paid science and what was the real science. And I looked forward to watching those doctors speak to us from the heart every single day, because it felt to me like they made much more sense of the statistics and the numbers, and they kind of they banged the nail in further for me to understand that, okay, this is really as serious as we think it is. I think that the answer really is that I've got a bit of a cynical mind, and so there is always that, and it's always with retrospect. We've got so much information retrospectively that makes it very difficult to look back and go, well, but if we'd known now what we knew then, we wouldn't have let them do X, Y, and
Hindsight.
Z, right? Hindsight is a
Hindsight
wonderful
is
thing, right? And if you can look through that retrospective lens, great, but you can't when you're in it. And so all we can ever do is work with what we've got at a given time. And I think that we have to believe the science, because as soon as we stop believing the science, we kind of had it, because you've lost all trust in the government, the scientists, the stories, everything you're being given is evidence-based, so you have to believe it. So I think the answer is I would say we go with evolving science, but now with hindsight, I say some of that science was not as accurate as it could have been.
We've lost you, Cyrus. We've lost you.
Well,
I'm very
just
sorry.
while we're
be
waiting for
helpful
him
of
to
me
come back, just while we're waiting, I'll just say this. Doctors knew so little about the disease. Patients whose lungs failed often had what's called dangerous low oxygen levels, which is what happens with an asthma attack. It's what happens with a panic attack. It's what happens with anyone that has low oxygen. A mechanical ventilator was used as automatic as that. It was only my blood clots that saved my life, thank goodness. But they would have put me on a ventilator and I wouldn't be here for sure. And the reason they used them as a treatment was because they knew that they would try and stop respiratory failure. But what in fact they caused was respiratory failure. Back to you, Cyrus, if you're there.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am. So the next one, Paulette, is freedom of expression. During the pandemic, so freedom of expression was affected, right? So governments, some of them were very honest and open and honest with the people, like I don't know, like Iceland as an example. Is it Iceland with that lady for the president? Is it that one? Yes. So they were so open and honest about things. They shut down their borders. They were real role models in the whole equation. If every country emulated them, there would be less deaths, right? And to governments, let's face it, every death is just a number, right? And when they delay adding them up, and or you then play and they doctor the numbers, as they say, cook the books, as they say. I'm not saying the cooking the books per se. They delayed adding them on, and in order to achieve personal goals, to look better, basically. That is something that really was annoying. And so some people have come out and actually some whistleblowers came out and said, all right, social media platforms were pressured by governments to take down particular types of content, right? So some governments pressured social media. Here's the text. There we go. So freedom of expression during pandemic. Some governments pressured social media to suppress legitimate dissent. And VUB says moderation helped limit harmful misinformation, right? So if the governments didn't use misinformation as a tool to bash people who are against them, I would have said, yes, that's 100% right. But since the governments use that as a tool to suppress dissonant voices, I am doubtful about this one. And what do you think, Paulette?
I think that's really hard because, you see, if you're able to manipulate the media in any way, and I do see that social media is a form of media, right? So therefore, if you're saying that the government were able to suppress it in some way or shape or form to stop misinformation, now misinformation is very dangerous. Misinformation causes people to say, I won't give my child that drug because it gives them it will give them autism, or it will give them this, that, and the other. There's been so many doctors who've made statements that have been proven to be wrong. So misinformation is dangerous, regardless of where whichever format it comes out of. Social media was the one that we were all watching because we were all looking for sources of information, right? So, there's always people talk about Dr. Google because that's where they go to find out what's wrong with them. I got a rash, or what is it, Dr. Google? And I think in this situation that you were going looking for information. And so the social media companies didn't toe the line, and they were coming out with all kinds of rubbish. And some of it was out and out rubbish. But I mean, I don't even know if you mentioned this later on, but when you've got the president of the United States suggesting that you drink bleach or inject bleach, when you talk about misinformation, I can't think of anything worse than that. And I remember my husband and I both were sitting in the room, and we both saw the scientists do this. Like, they put their head in their hands as he said it. And then he turned to them and he said, isn't that right? And they were like, their heads were in their hands. And they were like nodding like this, like nodding dogs. And you looked at them and you went, well, is it right or is it wrong? You know damn well it's wrong. Say it's wrong, But they were too scared to. Their jobs were on the line if they admitted in the middle of something to the president, right? So misinformation is very, very dangerous. How you control it, I don't know. I don't know. My
Yeah,
answer to that one is,
the thing,
I think that that's a very difficult one to answer.
yeah. So it is indeed. So when it comes to misinformation, let's see Eny or me or you misinform someone, right? The government can punish us how they deem fit. But when the government misinforms people, right, that is that goes without punishment. So if the government and people in position of power misinform people, they call it politics. But if ordinary people misinform the government, as an example, give them the wrong tax code or tax amounts, they go to jail and they call it fraud. Okay, so the same thing is applicable to COVID. When the government committed misinformation, there was no pushback, there was no consequences. Nobody did nothing to them, right? Nobody. People objected that, but there were people who were caught partying, and they were fined like £1,000 per person, right? I think there was a party. It was either in England or in Scotland. There was a party. They caught people, and I heard on the news that I'm not sure if they actually fined them or not, but there were talks of fining people up to £1,000, whilst the government officials were partying themselves, right? So that is a little bit two-tier, isn't it?
Just to be
So,
controversial, though,
Eny,
Cyrus, just to interrupt for 1 second. You say that, but there was also this whole misinformation about a birthday cake that Boris Johnson's wife brought into a boardroom that was already everybody equally spaced out in a boardroom as per instruction. And there was just a cake brought in from her who's living with him to say happy birthday. And the next thing, it was all advertised that he had a big fat birthday party and everyone was celebrating his birthday. So I think, again, people enjoy taking something and escalating it. And when in court, we had this, you'll probably talk about it, but there's been that many COVID investigations and proceedings where they've gone through every single little detail. And in that situation, everybody around that room was fine. Even the next prime minister that followed, and he said, this is ridiculous. We were all in the room equally spaced anyway, and a cake was brought in, and we were told not to sing, just to go happy birthday. That was it. And you were talking anyway in the room, so there would be no more vapor in the air. No one was singing happy birthday and jumping up and down in the chairs. The implication from the press was there was this bash that went on and there was a full-on party going on. So I think we do have to understand that there is always two sides to every story. And I think that the press, they love to get an opportunity to play it, the wrong way.
Thank you so much. When government officials party, who cares about misinformation, right? You are a role model. You're not supposed to do that, right? And when it comes to catching COVID and dying, right? COVID has no preference. Okay, you could give it to someone else, and that person could give it to a really elderly person with a really messed up immune system, and you've never known. So whilst we were feeling guilty, some people were doing things they weren't supposed to. That's the top and bottom of it. We were feeling guilty for seeing someone outside their door. We were feeling that we were supposed to put masks on. And should we go for a walk in the park today? Is it going to be okay? So that's awful. So the next one is number 9. That's for Eny. So what new evidence has taught us since 2020? View A. Some dismissed ideas later gained credibility or popularity. And view B says many conspiracy claims remained unsupported. So some of the conspiracy theories were conspiracy theories back then, but now they are just observation. What do you think of that, Eny? Which one is your favorite? I'm going to put them on the screen again as well. Eny, you are on mute, my friend.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Right. So I think many conspiracy claims remain unsupported, but still, I mean, this goes back to the social media question you asked. No, I've got friends who waffle rubbish every day about COVID. Still, I'm like, go away. I'm not interested at all. I don't care what you think, and what you think you know. You know, frankly, you know, leave it be. But they can't. Right? You know, and I think the way the media works is they want controversy. They don't want anything that's even close to the truth. That's just the media as a whole. That's on everything. You know, essentially, I'm watching less and less media and more YouTube. You know, because I can choose who I want to listen to on there. And the media don't tell us half the truth anyway. Now, unless it's a political story, someone to be wronged, they won't tell us a story anyway. You know, when I look around me, say the Iran war, for example, they're not even going close to what's going on, and they're giving us their own spin, and they're hiding the truth from us. You know, so look, I don't trust conspiracy theorists. I never have, never will. You know, it's by finding the truth for yourself, and the truth is partly why we have 10 authors in my book, because they were from 10 different parts of the world. We've got different stories, different experiences. And by looking at our book, you get an idea of what people really went through, rather than selecting one or two, which are usually made up stories based on, you know, your beliefs and your perspective. That's my personal take.
Thank you, Eny. So before COVID, Eny, I used to think like you do now, and I was thinking I would trust my government more than I trust that science bro on YouTube or whatever. After I found out, sometimes government's solution to a pandemic is go home and stay home, and if you die at home, you die at home. Then I realized, hang on a damn minute, your solution is out of sight, out of mind. So and if you felt really ill, don't come to A&E. If you felt really ill, call someone, and if you have to call an ambulance, then you're going to have to call an ambulance. So the solution was to do some sort of social distancing or isolation, and isolating and stuff like that. And they told people misinformation really, because they said the effectiveness of the vaccine was 90-something%. 4 months after that, they said, we said 90-something, we meant 60-something. And then after that, a year on, they said 10%, and then it went down to 5%. And I'm wondering, so it was 10, 5, or 15% from the get-go, right? So you guys lied to us, and you guys owe your nation an apology for pushing that vaccine, which was not a vaccine, right? Just be honest. We do not have a vaccine yet. However, we have created some sort of inoculation. We're going to use it as an experimental thing, right? But if they said that, that would cause panic, right? So in order to avoid a panic, they caused some deaths, which was as a result of side effects. So you did not tell people about the side effects of the vaccine. So if somebody died without you telling them that that is going to cause blood clots in you, so you've not done it right. So you need to tell the person before taking a pack of, I don't know, before buying a pack of painkillers, there is a large brochure in it, which if you unfold it, you will see the whole information about it, right? Every other vaccine comes with some sort of side effects, no doubt. But the side effects were hidden in case of COVID vaccine, unfortunately, and they weren't open and honest about it. Why? I suppose you need to ask them. And number 10. The lasting lessons COVID-19 has left for humanity. VOA says future responses should prioritize transparency and civil liberties. View B says future responses should prioritize preparedness. Okay, so I'll go for both, but Paulette, what do you think? I'm going to put it on the screen again. That was a little bit long lesson.
Okay. Number one, I don't think that we understand what COVID-19 actually is. And basically, it's a flu vaccine, and it was the bird flu vaccine. And they knew that if they did some modifications to the bird flu vaccine, that they thought it was a much higher chance of stopping the disease spreading. Now, did it do that or not? We don't know. We still don't know, because even if I only had a 10% chance of helping you, the 10%, the 5%, the 3%, the 1%, however many percent, if people stayed alive because of a vaccine, whether it was proven to be 60% efficacy or not, is almost immaterial. If you're alive and you had the vaccine, the answer is, would you have lived without the vaccine? Would you live with the vaccine? It's a big question, and it's a big risk. And who wants to jump off the cliff without a parachute to find out? Not me. So I would take the vaccines and do as I was told, because I didn't want to jump off the cliff and risk it again. And I was a very, very high chance of catching it. But to go back to your question, I guess honesty, transparency, scientific evidence and proof are always going to now be required. Everybody is going to want to know the ins, the outs, and the whys and the wheres, because we've all been rubbed up the wrong way by science. We all feel cheated by science. We feel cheated by the people who were involved in, not the doctors, not the nurses. They all did the best they could in the circumstances. They were doing what they thought was right and what was instructed. The people who need to be held to account are the ones that made millions, and they still need to be held to account. And if they're not, there's a bigger issue. So for me, humanity was damaged, because when you stop having belief in a system, when you stop having trust in a system, then you lose a part of what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be able to look to those people as the experts. We're not experts, so we look to the experts. When the experts are proved to be not experts, or given misinformation, or given information that's been guided by the government or whatever, then you start to throw the whole book in the air and go, well, who do we trust, right? So the answer is, of course, it's been damaged. And has it been damaged irrevocably? No, but it's been damaged, and it's been damaged to a level where we have to say, if it ever happened again, you would not get the compliance. You would not. there would have to be an absolute rigid cast iron reason to get the compliance. I think you'd get a far bigger pushback this time round. I believe that.
Thank you, Paulette. I'm going to go to Eny, and as the last question, I'm going to ask Eny, in hindsight, right? I know it's a difficult question, probably, but you're a man who can answer difficult questions. That's why I'm asking you. If you could go back, right? If you could go back and do one thing differently, just one thing, what would you do? Go back to 2020, 6 years ago, during COVID, right? What is it that you would do? Differently.
Well, it's only a hard question because, again, of the way our book works. 10 authors, different perspectives, different strategies. And I think we collectively speak more about preparedness than anything else, because there will be another pandemic. There will be. It's not maybe. And I guess the messages in the book, they're more relevant now than ever. Personally, I talk about getting realizing that you're the only life you have left is this one. So it's time to live your dreams. It's time to do the things you want to do. It's time to share your gifts with the world. And some of my other co-authors write about having faith and practicing faith on the big scale. What I say was a couple write about creating an existence that does not involve other people necessarily. Farming being one of the examples, right? Start your own farm, start your own place of growing food. So for me, the main thing I would do differently, is maybe is start on the big things that I want to do in life sooner. I mean, that's the main thing I'm taking away from COVID, really. Now when I have a good idea, I will try and work it out as quick as I can and implement it. I may fail, I may win, it may work, it may not work. But either way, if I never try, I will never know. If I don't try now, tomorrow is not promised. So now's the time to do it and do everything I do with love for others, love for the world, love for humanity, love for the people around me. Again, it's very easy for us to leave things till tomorrow. I'll make that call tomorrow. I'll send that DM tomorrow. I'll send that WhatsApp message tomorrow. No, do it now, because you might, tomorrow you might never see tomorrow. And that's a big thing that I learned from COVID. Today the present is a gift. Appreciate it for what it is and use it for what it's there for.
Eny, I really like, in chapter 4, that's your chapter in the book. You said, I changed my outlook on, I changed my mindset, and I changed my own mind and shift my own paradigm, and decided to be less grumpy when I go from my office upstairs, go downstairs. I had two choices: have an argument with a member with a family member, or put a smile on, go downstairs and have a conversation, right? So that is such a massive thing. And when everybody was panicking, you were thinking that during those days, and that is something. That is congratulations. That isn't, in my view, that's an achievement, because some people say, I mean, for me, the definition of intelligent people, right, has changed recently. This is what I've learned, Eny, right, and Paulette, and the rest of the fantastic people who've been watching us and listening to us for the past an hour and 15 minutes. I have learned something. An intelligent person is someone who is able to change his own mind or her own mind when information is presented to them. They are capable of changing their own mind. Nobody can change your mind, right? Nobody. You can agree with people, but nobody can change your mind. You set your mind up, right? You make your mind up. So, in my view, intelligent people are capable of changing their mind. Once you learn something in life, it's not a life sentence. It's a belief. It doesn't have to be a life sentence, right? You can change your own mind, just like Eny did. So that is such a confession. It's a massive confession, Eny, on chapter 4, on your chapter, of lessons we learned from COVID-19. I've got the book, and I really enjoyed this. Not to mention, I also enjoyed these 3 as well. These are Paulette's books, right? I'm not holding them upside down like when I was 4, am I? No.
It doesn't make your screen bigger for me to see. No, the Jack and Water at the top is fine.
Yeah.
The green bits at the top, so it's it's the right way. Is it back to front? Is it back to front? You have to make yourself bigger, Cyrus.
They were printed
screen.
the right way.
Right. Okay. I think your screen's got mirror. Your screen's got mirror, Cyrus. That's a problem.
Is it
right? Yeah. Your screen's mirroring.
Okay. Let me see this one. Paulette's
one's definitely the right way up.
Paulette's. How about now? Can you see them?
Yeah.
So these 3 are the Banterless Breakfast Mystery, Jack and Walter. Jack and Walter in New House Nerd, that's the green one. And Jack and Walter in New School Niggles. So, and that's the blue one. So if your child is going through lack of confidence, a new change, like a new school, if you've changed houses, if somebody else has changed houses, please definitely buy them one of these books. Always buy 2. Gift 1 to someone who can't afford it. That's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? So please go to Amazon and try to purchase 2 of them. This is a charity, by the way. What Paulette Hallam is doing, it's a charity. So Paulette is a parent. She's a good parent to a good child. And Ben is now in uni and he's studying biology. In spite of his challenges with autism, I am autistic myself, at least on some level on the spectrum. Everyone's on the spectrum, but mine was very severe, and for a big chunk of my life, I didn't even know I had it because it wasn't diagnosed for not until later years of my life. So you are a parent. You are doing a great job being a parent for your child, right? Not everyone is lucky to have a great parent like you. Please help someone else. Help someone else's child. Someone who might be in prison, who might be not with us anymore, right? That child needs supporting, especially if they are between ages 7 and 12, right? 6 and 12. If they can't read it, you can read it to them, right? If your child is done with the book, gift it to someone else. You don't have to, if you can't afford it, the books aren't expensive, by the way. They are cheap, but you never know what kind of financial situation a parent is dealing with. Parenting is expensive. That's a fact. So buy them for your own child. Buy them for someone else's child, right? Make someone's day. And these issues that are discussed in these books, these issues, if they are not addressed, they can mess up someone's child in later life, right? In the later years. They need to be addressed. These issues need to be addressed. By the way, when you're reading a book, so I'm going chapter by chapter, right? When you finish a chapter, something gets added to you. That's how much I love this book, right? When you finish one chapter, something gets added. You will be a different person, not better or worse, different as in someone else's experience sits in your head, and you will have one extra way of thinking. And good for you if you have one extra way of thinking, because in life, your success is only as good as your strategies, right? And you never ever get elevated to your strategies. You always fall down to your systems. This book helps you have a better system in life, right? So thanks for writing it, Eny, and thank you, and please pass on my gratitude to your co-authors as well. Hopefully we will see them on the show soon. Lessons we learned from COVID. Today's session was about lessons we learned from COVID-19. Number one, it's a fantastic subject. Number two, because it's a fantastic book, right, by Eny Osung and his co-authors. Eny, do you want to share any closing comments about yourself and about the book and about your future plans as a community builder?
Of course, thank you so much for, I guess, showcasing the book. And I'm totally with Paulette. Of course, I am. In terms of, I think the issues in Jack and Water affect adults every day of the week. So when you say, more or less, I found my water. That's what it comes down to, Cyrus. Literally, I found my inner voice that said, Eny, they're not the problem. You're the problem. Because if the commonality between my conflict with people was not them, it was me. Literally, I worked out. If I'm the only one that's present in all the situations, then it must be me that's got something wrong with me, right? But I really think we all need to find our water, the inner voice that tells us that tells us you can do better, you can do more, you can do different to be happy and to have more impact on people. And I said that was a lesson that I was not prepared for, but I think when you discover your truth, I don't think there's any value in denying it. In terms of what we have planned for lessons we learned from COVID. Today, I told my web designer about creating a website for the book, which I had in mind from the beginning, but I haven't done it for a couple of years now. But now's the time to do it. And I said the website will showcase the book, also showcase the co-authors, and they give you a chance to really get to know them, get to know who they are, get to know how they help, get to know their genius. Many of the co-authors have their own books, beyond lessons we learned from COVID. So, all of that will be in one place. That's next big number two big thing on my list. And then as soon as that's in process, we'll do some events. Again, as a book publisher, as a book marketer, it's very easy to leave your book to die and to gather dust on the shelf. But to say, we're determined to revive the book because, like I say, there'll be another pandemic. Ebola apparently falls short of being a pandemic, even though it is devastating in large parts of Africa the same way. Apparently, because it's in one continent, it's not a pandemic. It's an
that's an endemic.
Yes.
it's an
No, so we should know. I think the strategies for dealing with COVID that we use to survive, as we wrote in the book, apply to many other conditions that have mass effects that devastate people's lives. We will keep out there, we will keep sharing the message, and we'll keep offering our solutions for our friends and people to live happy and more productive, fulfilled lives. That's the plan, Cyrus.
Thank you so much, guys. If you're watching this on repeat, please remember, if you're an author, please contact Eny Osung, the fame expert. And if you kind of stuck, you don't know how to solve that issue. If you've done everything, if you tried everything and you kind of stuck, contact Paulette Hallam, and she will help you pinpoint the problem, and she will show you a roadmap to get the hell out. Are a human being. We are, in reality, we are strong. We are apex predators, right? In the jungle, right? We are the top of the food chain. At least we're supposed to be. Don't forget that. There's massive amount of power within you, right? Unleash it. Contact Paulette Hallam. Contact Eny Osung. And depending upon which stage of the journey you are at, they will help you. And Paulette, if you could go back to pandemic days, what would you change? What's the one thing you could change? And please don't tell me you wouldn't argue with Charles, your husband.
You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, okay, so you probably missed the swearing, which is just as well. What I said was I would have jumped out of bed and punched that doctor on the nose. Fortuitously for him, there was a beep, a flatline beep across the way on one of the other UCT beds that he had to run to. When I had the lovely young doctor and the doctor from Papworth, who looked like, Back to the Future type scientist, white hair, little tiny glasses. It was like Santa had arrived. I wasn't sure if I was having an illusion, but he just held my hand. He held my hand in a pandemic and told me that it was going to be okay and that I was going to live and I would see tomorrow, and that I didn't need to phone my husband and tell him I was dying, and I didn't need to say goodbye to my son, and I didn't need to get my phone recharged because I was so scared that I was going to have to say goodbye to him on the phone. And that callous response wasn't even his fault, if you think about it. But there could have been an inquest. I could have gone all the way with it, but I chose just to have a phone call with him one-to-one rather than a big, huge court case and debate and all the rest of it. He didn't wake up that day in the morning and go, I'm going to really pee that lady off, right? It's just what happened. And he didn't have the time, apart from saying, you won't be going home, full stop, and then go because he got flatline. The girl was horrified, the one that was, they have doctors that are shadowing, and she was just horrified of what she'd seen. I just immediately flooded. I took my mask off and said, help me. And she told me to put the mask back on and got the help. And I did put a formal complaint in, but as I said, it was a conversation. And he said, I don't even remember saying that. I don't even remember speaking to you. I know I did because everyone else says I did. But what I said No clue. He said, I was on the hoof from morning to night, 18 hours a day. He said, I was telling people every day they were dying. He said, and you didn't. And you're one of the lucky ones. And I'm sorry I hurt you. I hurt you. I hurt your feelings. I made things as bad as I did. So what would I have changed? I would have punched him. But deep down, would I have now he spoke to me on the phone. Now he's said sorry, and that he doesn't even remember. I'm so inconsequential in the great scheme of his horrible, vile days that he was living. We might have been living horrible days at home, having to deal with the same movies and the same whatever we were having to live with. These doctors were working 18 hours a day, watching people dying on a regular basis. My nephew was a doctor at the time, and he literally said to me, I have never seen so many dead people in my life. I never want to see another dead person. This is horrific. And I think that's probably what converted him to start looking at AI and medicine with AI. But the point I'm trying to make is that I don't believe you can change things. I would like to have hurt him in that moment, just a big elbow in the whatsits because of what he said. I didn't have the strength to even bash him with a finger, to be honest. But the point I'm trying to make is the anger that I felt that I wouldn't even get to say goodbye to the two most important men in my life was horrendous. So what would I have changed? I would change his bedside manner. I would change the way he spoke to people. But 9 times out of 10, the people he spoke to were dying. So do you know what? They weren't going to complain. I was one of those that didn't die. I was one of those that did make it. I did get to come home. So ultimately, as angry as I was, and I did make the formal complaint, and it was suggested by the consultant from Papworth that I did. He said he needs to be told because, even in the worst circumstance, you still need to remember the person in the bed's a human being. And the guy was in his 70s, the consultant that came from Papworth. And I'm just going to say this finally. Whatever way you look at this situation, COVID, wherever you come from and whatever side of the fence you sit, there will be another COVID. Won't be called COVID. It might be called David. Who knows what it'll be called? But there will be another one. And will we do the same thing? Will we panic the same way? Will we all run around and buy bread like it's going out of fashion? Will we all do all these crazy things? Do you know what? A vast majority will. But there'll be others that will be a little bit more questioning. And I think it's those that are going to be the difficult ones. They're going to be the ones that it's going to be harder to convince that they need to stand by the rules, that they have to do what's been told. Because I think that there's a bit of trust gone. And as soon as trust is out of the picture, we have an issue. And that's my honest take on it.
Thank you so much, everyone, for thank you so much, Paulette. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching our show up to this point. We're nearly done. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna leave you with this thought, right? There was this guy who was eating a burger, and along with his girlfriend. So they were sat down eating a burger, and the postman arrived, and then the guy went to open the door, came back, and his burger was gone. So the burger was gone, and he thought the girlfriend had eaten the burger. So he accused the girlfriend of eating the burger. And then the girlfriend said, "No, I didn't eat it. I'm still eating my own burger." And then looked at the dog, and then they both thought it was the dog. And then the arguments continued day in, day out. And then at some point, the girlfriend left him because he turned really grumpy and he couldn't get over his girlfriend lying to him, and he couldn't forgive him. He couldn't forgive her. So he said to her, "If you lying to me about such a simple thing, there are bigger things you have been lying to me about." And then she said, "You know what? I'm leaving you because you're not the same person anymore, and you're accusing me of lying. How can you live with someone you don't trust?" So she left. 2 weeks after that, he got rid of the dog because he couldn't get over it. And then the girlfriend said, "Yeah, I'm going to take care of the dog." So the dog left him and started living with a girlfriend who was now living in a different flat, different apartment. So he felt like the life is awful and terrible, and moved. And when the girlfriend left and the dog left, there was this stench in the house. There was this awful smell, and then he couldn't bear it anymore, and he left the house as well. So he moved to a different town. He was like, "I'm going to move. I'm going to move to a different town." So he went to a different city, started living there, got a new job, new life, and he was still not happy. He was still not over the burger. So lived in the new apartment, and the bad smell wasn't getting any better. So he washed all of his clothes, the dirty and the clean, washed everything, cleaned the floor 10 times a day. So did everything he could. Cleaned the fridge, cleaned it out completely, bought everything new, throw out his shoes, bought new clothes, and the smell was still there. Moved to a new house. At some point, had a fight with his boss. He couldn't get over the difficulties in life. His boss sacked him. Moved to a new job and a new house. And there was this guy, really scruffy looking guy, who was working in the office, and he said to him, what's going on with your life? Why are you so grumpy? And then he said, "Well, my girlfriend worked against me. Life works against me. My dog probably stole my burger." To this day, I'm not sure. And then he said, "Come to my house for a drink, or let me come to yours." And he said, "Yeah, you come to my house." So he went to his house and sat over a drink, and the guy went, "It smells really bad. Okay, let me check the house." So he checked the house, and he said, "I'm going to help you with this problem, but you're going to have to follow my advice and tell me." And every advice should be taken to the most minute details. And he said, "Yeah, I promise." So first of all, go and apologize to your girlfriend. So apologize to the girlfriend, and let's rekindle the relationship, he said. And they did. So they got back together now. And he said, "You have to apologize to the dog as well. You accused the dog of stealing your burger." And he said, "Well, to this day, I'm not sure. Maybe he did." And she said, "Maybe he didn't." So he said, "All right, I'm sorry, such and such name," whatever the dog's name was. So apologized to both, got them back, and then went back to the guy and said, "I got them back." And he said, "I'm going to come to your house again and tell you how to solve that problem." So he came to the house and he said, "I want you both to get me a knife, turn your sofa upside down, tore it up from the bottom of the sofa, and showed them the burger, which was at that point really stinky and smelly and full of fungus and stuff." So he sacrificed his relationship, sacrificed being with his dog, got sacked from his job, changed his town, moved house twice, 3 times, because of an idea that was in his head. His attitude towards life never changed, even though his job did, his town did. So if we want to change something, we have to change from our attitude. Otherwise, we'll be moving from one house to another, from one town to the next with that stinky burger, right? So if we went from the pandemic, it's not number one, but in our time is pandemic number one, right? If we go from this one to the next one is going to be an energy one probably, or food and water. The next one is going to be, right? And don't take my word for it, right? It's going to be some sort of chaos of some sort, right? Are we going to be organized next time? Are we going to be more organized? Are we going to be more kind to each other? Hopefully we will be, right? Is our government going to be honest with us? Hopefully, right? So remember, your government's job is not to guarantee your happiness. Your government job is to govern you and control you and keep you in line, right? Even though you vote for them and you bring them into power, depending where you're watching the show from, the pseudo democracies that we're living in these days, air quotes, pseudo democracies, our governments don't listen to us. We listen to our governments. I mean, we have to. We have no choice. When the new currency comes in, when the digital currencies come in, you will have less liberties. You will have to have more compliance, right? So before those policies are put in place, please remember, if you're in a position of power, be kind as you're implementing those policies, right? Remember, people that you are governing over, they are people, okay? They're not numbers. Don't call them digital twins on your systems, right? Don't treat them like digital data, okay? They are people. COVID was a good lesson for all of us. One of the lessons that we learned from COVID-19 was that we behaved in ways that we shouldn't have. Most of us did, right? Especially people in position of power. Ordinary people were ordinary people. Hopefully we will be kind in the next pandemic, because it's not just like Eny said. We're not delusional, right? Every few years there's going to be a war followed by a pandemic, right, of some sort. Crisis followed by chaos. Chaos followed by crisis. And casualties, right? So remember, governments come and go. Parties come and go. People are always there. Who was it who said wars come and go, but my soldiers stay eternal? Was it Tupac Shakur? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Was it Tupac? Yes. So,
Shakur.
yep. So we have to protect each other. We have to support each other a little bit more, right? And that starts from base, from children. I'm going to remind you, the Jack and Walter trilogy is on Amazon, and you know what to do. And about Eny's book as well, Lessons We Learned from COVID-19. We're going to see more of Eny and his co-authors. Yes, thank you, Eny. Lessons We Learned from COVID-19, a book by Eny Osung and his co-authors. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And I wish you guys good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. See you in the next one, guys. You've been watching Tea, Milk, 2 Sugars. That's how we like our tea. Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely time. Take care.